Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more YCL Talk. Today, we bring a special person to be with us. His name is Rodrigo Nunes. And before I invite Rodrigo to be with us, I'd like to talk about a little bit about YCL. We are an international organization that wants to capacitate, empower, and connect 1 billion people until 2030. Yeah, and we will do this because we need people who are fighting against climate crisis. Rodrigo, he is here with me. I will bring his up. And Rodrigo, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Thank you so much for being with us. Rodrigo, he is project manager for United People Global Sustainability Leadership Programs. He will exchange his experience and recommendations about project management tools that are easy and effective. It's the perfect opportunity to help young activists and entrepreneurs in kicking off their initiatives. So, if you are a person who has a lot of ideas and your mind all the time is like shaking, you don't know how to put these ideas out of the paper, bring your pen, your paper, and Rodrigo will help you to start your project and to impact another other lives. Rodrigo, he's also part of United People Global and has act as curator and president also for Global Shapers and Rotary clubs in Brazil. So, guys, Rodrigo, he's very fancy. His time with us is very precious. So enjoy, and Rodrigo, thank you so much. You can take the floor.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for the amazing invitation, for the amazing presentation. It's a pleasure to be with you here. I'll be, in fact, presenting one project that I have started last year, being part of the Sustainability Leadership Program from United People Global. And the main focus of this project is exactly helping any group, any organization, any young people in the world to kick off their projects. So you can draw a start line and you can draw the next steps for starting any kind of project. May it be an entrepreneurship or a social project, anything you want to do. And it might take around 40 minutes for us to go through the project. I believe we have the comment sections open in YouTube, right? So I'll be presenting it, but feel free to input any question, to stop me at any moment. And I would love to have this as a conversation, in fact, to help as many people as possible. Okay. So here we have, this is an ebook. It's free, it's available for worldwide. We have this in English and in Portuguese by the moment. And we can share the link for people to access it in the description later on. But it's called Projects for All, a step-by-step guide for building your first project. A quick presentation for myself. My name is Rodrigo Nunes. I'm a UPG sustainability leader, and I have been working with nonprofit organizations such as Rotary, Junior Achievement, Global Shapers Community for 13 years now. And the idea of this document is, in fact, that it can be printed and it can be used anywhere in the world for people to start building their own projects. So the main point for starting a project is understanding what is your goal with that. So as you said, Amanda, we usually have lots and lots of ideas, but we need to determine what ideas we want to work on and why to do that. Otherwise, we are going to start it and leave it when we have some difficulties in the way. So before even starting to design the project, the main important point is to have the main objective for your project. What do you want to achieve and why you are willing to give your resources and energies for this project. You need to remember that at the beginning, it will be only your resource and energy, but as the project grows, you will be also needing other people's energy. So, for what are you going to invite people to support you and to help you in your project? There is never a right answer. It can be entrepreneurship, or it can be a local development project. It can be an educational project. It can be a project inside your family, a religious project. Doesn't matter. But it's important to have a strong reason that will always make you remember why you're doing that, why you are applying your resources in that project, so you don't just give away. Some of great examples from different teams are, for example, food waste. You can start a project for offering quality meals for people in social vulnerability. It can be related to gender equality by empowering women to create their own business. In education, in housing, helping to build cheap houses for families in need, just like TED will do. It can be environmental, can be big projects, but can be smaller ones, just like cleaning our local beaches or local parks. And we have many other options. There is never a right answer. But one great way to help you define your project, and I believe that all the ICLs know about that, is trying to link your project to at least one of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Why that? Because on the 17 teams, your project will for sure be giving change to local communities or worldwide. So if your project fits in any of those 7 teams, it's a worth project to be on. For example, this guide, the main goal of it is to help any person or organization in the world to easily design and implement a basic project inside their communities, no matter what is their previous background on project planning. So the idea is for anyone who never studied, never have worked with project managing, this person would be able to design and implement a project. And by doing so, we share better educational content, we promote strong institutions, and indirectly generate possible partnerships between social agents, just like we're doing now, between UPG and ICL. So this project, you might not believe that or might not think at a first glance, but it involves 4 of the 17 SDGs: quality education, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and partnerships for the goals. After you have your goal, after you have your reason why, it's time to think about your project name. Okay, so it's important to think that on the early stage, because usually you won't have the change to be changing the names. It's the name that will accompany the whole life of your project, that will identify it for their whole existence, just as a child. So when you have a child in your family, the name given will be the name by what this child will be called, usually. And there are some points to be considered when to define the project name. Because, for example, I am involved in another project called Guru Vows that it aims to change the way philanthropy is done in the world. The idea is to democratize philanthropy, so bring ordinary people to the world of giving and helping any small organization worldwide to get promises of donations in the future. But when it started, before being designed, the name of the project was Financial Beneficiaries Program. And it doesn't quite work. Like thinking that you'll be needing to call it and present it as Financial Beneficiaries Program. So it's important to have a simple and easy to understand name. So, for example, Goodwill Vows, it's about goodwill. It's about vows, promises that are related to your goodwill to the world. Avoid long names or long titles because people won't remember long descriptions. We have some organizations that have really long names, but they always have an acronym that is short, that is easy to remember, just like WWF. Make it relevant. Try to use a name that connects to your local culture or that connects to your public. So sometimes we have cool names. One name that really got in my mind from another project that UPG is working on is called Waze. And for me, as a Brazilian, this doesn't make a match, but the project was born thinking in Nigeria. And Waze is a Yoruba word that means something like wisdom, sharing wisdom. And the project is when one person interview elderly people to share their histories, to share their knowledge with the whole world. So this has a really, really strong attachment to the local culture. So your project doesn't need to be global. You don't need to have a global name. Maybe your focus is local. And the better way to do that is choose something that connects to this local culture. Then our point, just as I was saying, you need to define where it will take place. Sometimes we have projects that have geographical focus. For example, by building some house, usually you have a region that you are working on. But when you have other projects just like this one, the ICL talks, it can be global or it can be focused on North America or on Europe. It's important for you to understand where you're going to start your project because that will help you to later on define what resources are you going to need. There's no problem that maybe you had decided you were going to teach young people to code, for example, and you dream to teach it worldwide, to bring it to 150, 160 countries. But you need to start in probably just one country or two that you have some contact and that you don't need a great network to do so. So it's important to think where you're going to start. It doesn't matter that starting by in your local school, it means your project will always be developed only there. It just as a child, it will grow, but you need to decide where this will be born. And again, there is no right answer. Just you may dream about the scale it will reach in the future, but to get started, it's really, really, really important to delimitate the initial territory. And we have many different options. For example, it can be a local school, a local hospital, or any relevant organization in your community that you want to try out your project. It can be a neighborhood or a community if you want to clean the local squares, for example. It can be the company you work for. Can be a town project. Can be different cities in other countries. Or it can be only online. That's also this possibility, especially in the moments we are living now. That maybe your project it won't be delimited by any region because you won't need local resource and you do it online. For example, the ICL talks, it can take place anywhere in the world. You just need some computers and some internet network.
Rodrigo, I think that one thing very interesting to say is sometimes people think that if I want to get a project, it needs to born very big and I need to impact a lot of people and I need to change the world and transform everybody. But no, guys, you can start very small. You can start in your house. You can start in your community, in your school, or in your university. You just need to start. And after a while, your project will get bigger and bigger and bigger. But you need to give the first step. And I want to get this moment and ask to you, everyone who is watching us, if you have these ideas, if you already have a project, please tell to us here in the comments, and Rodrigo will continue his presentation. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I'll be happy to share any ideas that maybe we can discuss in here. Now we have a name, now we have a reason why, and we have a location. So we need to start thinking about resources. So when you think when starting a project, just as you said, Amanda, you can be overexcited with the possibilities. You can be thinking, okay, this can be huge. Uh, just for taking an example, Goodwill Vows, we are having some discussions because it's meant to achieve more than 10 million people, but nobody borns walking. So everything born small. And right now our main focus is to gather 500 people to register their vows. After that, we can think on the next steps and we can think on how to create mass engagement. And that's a reason for that, because you need to try out everything first. Imagine what happens if, okay, you have big dreams and you design your project and you launch it, it's a website maybe, and then bam, 100,000 people access the website and it crashes. And you never thought about that. If you have run some tests, some prior tests with 100 people, with 10 people, maybe you could find some points to be adjusted. Maybe you could find some misspellings that affect the image of your project. So it's important to think, how do you want to start and how many resources you're going to need for that. Because also, if you think on the big picture on what you want to get, maybe that can be a lock for you developing your project. Because you think, okay, you know what, I want to launch this project and I want to train 1,000 young people. And for that, oh, I need $50,000. And where can I get $50,000? No matter I want to work in this project. Change your mind. Don't start thinking that you need resources for 1,000 people. You need resources for one person. You need to start maybe helping to train one person. And for that, what you might need? Maybe a computer and some editing skills, because we have many possibilities of YouTube, for example, where you can upload freely content. So think that what you want to achieve at first and how many resources you're going to need to guarantee that the project will start, that it will have. And it's very important, really, really important to have in mind that most of the times resources are limited, especially money, but not only money. Your time is limited. So be careful when you think of how much time you're going to give. If it's a volunteer project and you work, you can even think about, okay, I'll give 20 hours of my week to this project, 40 hours of my week to this project, because you're going to create really high expectations that maybe you won't be able to fit. The good news is that you can list most of the resource needed since the beginning of the planning. Some of the resource you might discover that won't demand any financial investment. So don't let money be a problem for you starting your own project. And what kind of resource we can list? I like this phrase very much, that no man or woman is an island. No one can change the world alone. Yes, everyone can make a difference in the world, but no one can change it alone. So in order to make your project come to life, it's necessary to have people on board with you. It's necessary to build a structure where you can invite other volunteers or you can invite some sponsors to help you. And I have created some points where you can input some boxes where you can input those kinds of people. The first one are the volunteers. Those are people, usually friends, family, that will join your project in order to make it happen and won't demand any payment. Those are some of the most important people in the beginning of the projects where you don't have budget. Then you have to think about partners. The partners are those people or organizations who are going to support your project with a specific amount of money or with a resource, for example. Uh, Remember again, don't be so close-minded regarding money. There's many ways to have people supporting you. Maybe they can give you transport. Maybe they can lend you a space where you can run your project. It can be a local school. They will be your partners. Then we have sponsors. Sponsors, yet they give you money. Usually, for initial projects, for startup projects, you won't be dealing too much with sponsors, but it's important to think that how you're going to engage or who would like to engage as potential sponsors maybe in the future. And once you have money, you can start thinking about collaborators, just like volunteers, but paid ones. Those are people who will be, in fact, building your project, and that can commit a little bit more than volunteers, because Mandina, you have been into the volunteer life for quite a while also, and sometimes other priorities happen and we cannot volunteer all the time we wanted to. So when you have collaborators, you usually don't have this problem anymore because you have some people that are working every day into your project. And also, please go on.
I think the best way when you that you can get good collaborators is when you have volunteers and your project is getting bigger and you can pay your volunteers, because volunteers do what they do because they love, they do with passion. So invest in your volunteers. When you have like just a few people working with you, invest in these people, because when you get bigger and when you start to get money to do what you do, to fund your projects, you can pay your volunteers, and I'm sure they will do with love. And when you do anything with love, change the world.
Yes, and I'm the living experience for that. I started as a volunteer in UPG, and now I'm currently project manager in a paid position. But the volunteers always have priority for the selection inside UPG, for example. So yes, this is a great way to nurse and to keep great talents with you, because usually the volunteer was working for free. Imagine how they are going to work when you pay them.
Yes, yes. And another point that I want to share is I invest 2 years of my life doing volunteer job at Engajamundo. Engajamundo is a Brazilian NGO, and now I'm working in youth camp leaders. I'm here with you guys because I invest 2 years of my life doing what I love, and now I'm getting paid for this. When we are volunteers, we learn a lot of things, and after a while we can do our life with what we love. So if you want to transform the world, if you want to start a big project, I think, in my opinion, the first step is to do volunteer job. Find your passion, find your the thing that you really love. And I know that work for free sometimes is really hard, but don't think in this way. Think that you are paying yourself in the future. It's the best way to think.
That's amazing, Amanda. Amazing. And in fact, for as you said in the beginning, especially young people have many, many ideas popping in their mind. Doing volunteer work is a really great way to understand a little bit more about how to bring projects to life. How do volunteer projects work? How do volunteering organizations work? And at least for me, this was quite a shifting point into my career. I'm specialized in sales and marketing, and having been volunteering for 13 years, it changed the way I relate to stakeholders. It changed the way I usually talk to people. So yes, this is an investment for your future. Um, Another point,
Rodrigo,
yes.
uh, before we continue, we got a question, our first question from Armando Morales. What if your volunteers start lacking motivation? How do you hype them back up?
Thank you, Armando. Just to be honest, I'm very happy to see Armando here. He's a colleague of mine from LPG, um, and that's one point that I have been president and creator of volunteer groups. Uh, One thing we must have in mind is it's simply impossible to keep everyone happy and motivated all the time. Motivation usually it comes by oneself, so you can't really motivate other people. What you can do, in my opinion, it's always being clear about your project, about what you expect from the volunteers and what you are offering also. So it's important to, since the beginning, since day one, to be very clear about what are you trying to achieve, how you're going to achieve that. If you have any problem, please let me know. How can I help you? Because most of the time that I have talked with people who stopped volunteering, one of their complaints was they never felt home. They never felt they had a voice. And especially for bigger groups, this occurs a lot, because we are raised into a capitalist way that we think that who is up us, our bosses, they are unreachable, and we need to speak to keep our voices loud. But that's not the way volunteer work. Because okay, you are working for free, so you're in fact a really big resource for the company or for the organization. Please speak up, use your voice, tell what you're feeling. If you're feeling that you're not motivated enough, talk about that with your manager or with your colleagues. It doesn't need to be your manager, and maybe that will bring a light. But if you're the manager and you're feeling that, okay, you have 10 volunteers and one of them is neither motivated enough, maybe it's not the project for this person. And it happens, just like it happens on the cooperative world. People start jobs, and after a while, they decide that okay, that's not what I'm looking for, and unfortunately, you cannot do anything to change that. It's up to the person. But yeah, my suggestion is always be open to talk. Being you the volunteer or being you the manager, talk's the best way to get where you want to go.
Perfect, Rodrigo. Fernanda Matsuoka thought that motivation is hard, with it's why it's so important to have a clear objective in a project and build great connections to lift everybody up, organizations and volunteers. It's the big point. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yes, and I think it's linked to what we have started in the beginning before even deciding the name of the project. It's deciding the reason why it needs to be clear, because problems will happen all the time, and you need to remember why you are giving your time, why you are using your resources, why you are using other people's resources. It needs to be clear, because good people will always gather to make good things happen. And that applies also for the last kind of people we need to think, last but not least, that is the customer or the public. Because we usually think about customer as people who will buy something. So think of the public as the customer. You need to provide a solution that make their eyes shine, that can change their life or that can change the current situation, so they will be on board with you. And it's not easy at all for any organization. For example, in Goodwill Vows, we are always having brainstorm sessions to discover how we can give value to the people, to invite them to come and make vows, to pledge donations, to make promises to support their local organizations. We know that people want to do that, but what's the best way to touch their hearts? What's the best way to make them understand and believe that the solution we are providing is the right one. Okay? So we know about the people we need to make the project work, and it's very important here. A project doesn't work if you think about volunteers, partners, sponsors, and collaborators and just forget about the public. It must always be driven by the needs of the public. You can't just think that you create a project for yourself because probably it won't work. And it will hit hard on motivation when you're going to launch and you discover that what you have worked for months, it isn't needed or it isn't desired by the people as you believe it should be. And the next point is deciding the tools and equipment. That usually, again, we think that we need money to have them because um, we think that we need to buy things. That's the way we have been raised, always having new things. But thank God the world's changing and we are thinking circular economy, and most of the tools you won't need to buy. You can lend, you can get them. Maybe sometimes you can receive books that were used for 1 year and that would be trashed away. You can use for your organization. You just need to ask for them. For chairs, for example, if you think, okay, we need chairs, maybe you can go to a local church that is going to change their plastic chairs and they can give you away some. Or if the most needed, you can rent. You don't need to be buying stuff. Please change your mind. You don't need to buy stuff to create a project. So depending on the nature of your project, it might need lots of tools and equipment. For example, a house building project, you'll be needing lots and lots of tools. Or music lessons project that you might be needing music instruments, for example. Or it will need almost none. A start time group, a webinar project, just like that. We almost don't need any kind of tool. And the best way to identify that is getting these people, especially the volunteers one, with you and design, okay, what do we want to achieve and what do we need to achieve that? Because you by yourself can start thinking about something, about some tools, some equipments, but the best way to do is having brainstorm sessions because there's always something you are not seeing. Maybe you are so focused on what you have planned and you can forget about such small things. For example, you can think, okay, I'll be doing sports training for young kids and in my community, and I think, okay, we need to buy uniforms, we need to buy food because they will be all day with us, and you totally forget that you need a venue, you need a space to do that. You can't do that on the street, for example. So have brainstorm sessions with your team. This is the best way to describe everything you need. And my suggestion is describe everything that comes in mind and then you filter the list and see what is necessary and what is an upgrade and start by the necessary ones. Okay. After you decided what you need and maybe you couldn't get all you needed by lending or by donations, for example, then it's time to think about money. Okay, but at this moment, as you're not thinking about money since the beginning, you might realize your project can be much cheaper than you expected in the beginning. And once you decide, okay, how much money you're going to need, then you're going to look for funding. And we have many options for funding. We have crowdfunding tools, websites. We can ask for corporate donations, for personal donations. Usually, the projects that I know were the most successful one started with personal donations from friends and family, people who are close to you and that can give small amounts to buy the first tools you need, the first equipment. If you have a bigger project, you can start writing for project grants. It can be governmental or it can be corporate grants. You can start raffles. Remember when you were at school, or if you are at school and you need to buy something or you need to do some pointy project, you can sell raffles and raise a small money to it. You can do events. Not right now, the pandemic, please, maybe an online event, but when we can gather together again, it's possible. You can have a talent show, you can have an ice cream sale, you can have some yard sales. Um, so there are many different options for getting money. Don't get your mind fixed that you only need to get money from corporate organizations or that you need money from your personal relations. There are many tools and you can make use of many different ones. I believe we had a question regarding tools, Amanda? Property.
Actually, yeah, we have a comment I will put on the
Okay.
here. I I think the issues with tool and equipment is contextual. In some case, you definitely need to buy tools and software. Many thanks to the open source community, they are really changing the stores.
Yes, exactly that. Sometimes there's no way you need to invest. You need to put money, but the global community is changing. So always go for the circular economy before buying new things, before paying for it. Usually, you just need to ask to have what you need.
Yes.
And we have draw what we're going to need. Now it's time to think what most of the projects don't think. This is one of the biggest problems with all the projects I have been working with. Might it be volunteer projects or even corporate projects for launch of new products, for example, or for building new teams, people forget about time planning. You need resource, and time is a resource. One of the most valuable one because people only have 24 hours a day and everyone has the same amount of time to distribute in their lives. So please always have in mind your project goal and the resource involved and how much time you're going to need from yourself and from your team so you can create a timeline of actions. And again, there are many different options. You can design your timeline in days, in weeks, in months, even in years. Look at Elon Musk. He designed his projects for years, for decades. And it's important to have this so you can be realistic about where you are going, what you need in the moment, and to avoid many unnecessary adjustments. Because maybe you decide that okay, we're going to launch our project in 2 months, and you publicize that, and it's covered in a month and a half that you don't have even 10% of what's needed, and you'll be needing to postpone, and it will affect the success of the project. Okay? An ideal timeline should include some milestones or some really big commitments, some really big events that will mark where you are and how much needed to achieve the last point. The first milestone for me is the project writing. You need to write something to make it reality. It won't happen if you keep this in your mind. It won't happen if you just keep talking about that because people forget about what was discussed, but they can't forget about what's written. So the first milestone for your project should be project writing. After you have done that, program a brainstorming so you can discuss about what is written. Then team assemblage, just like the Avengers, assemble your team. Assemble your team to start working in what you have brainstormed, in what you have discussed that are important points for the launch. After that, you start your resource mobilizations. Why not start the resource mobilization after having the team assembled? Because doing that, you'll be having to be all by yourself looking for the resource, and maybe you will discover that you didn't need everything you were asking for and you lost precious time. So have the team together and you can think and work together about what you need. Then you have people, you have resource, it's time to launch the project. You'll be launching it, you do your first activity or your first action, and you need to always analyze the results of what you have done and adapt your plan. Because you need to understand also that things never go alongside the plan. The first plan is not the right one. It's the right way to begin, but you need to be adapting. Hope God you don't need to adapt so much, but you always have something that didn't work as you wanted to, or that could be improved. So after your first action, make the analysis of the outcomes of what happened and if it happened the way you wanted to, or it could be improved. Design the adjustment and then launch your second activity. Do your second activity. Follow up on the actions, and again, analyze. And this goes on indefinitely. If you're doing a monthly event, you can do the event, make the analysis, make the adjustments, do the third wave, do the fourth wave. If it's just one-time event, you do it and you analyze what needs to be done, and you won't be having the second activity. So this can go on indefinitely, but it's really desirable that you write a results report where you can look of what you have done, what are the outcomes, what can be improved for next projects, for example, if it was a one-time event, and you finally do the project closure. It's important to have a closure. It's important to think just as life. There is a beginning, a middle, and an end. Things need to be designed to end. Maybe you don't need to design it to end in a few months. You don't need to design it to end in 10 years. But you need to think that someday it will end. Someday it needs to give space to new projects. Oh, thank you, Clara. It's good to
Okay, good. Just want to point out, Clara, she asked, what about when unexpected events compromise your timeline and advise on how not to give up on your project? And you just answered.
Yes, it's exactly that. Do a phase, analyze it, change it, and do the next one. Things will
Yes.
never go along with what you planned. Hey, maybe there's a new virus, a global virus, that will change all the program you had for the year. And that happened, for example, for the UPG sustainability program. We are going to send, we are planning to send people, 60 young leaders again to US to have an incredible training in June, August, and September. And we sent none because people can't travel anymore. And we are going to need to change all our planning and possibly start web training for people. And
Um,
if everything permits, maybe we can start sending people again to US on next year. But we don't know. We cannot be sure because things change. And it's important for you to be open.
Yes, I think that the main point is to start. You don't need to be afraid of the mistakes or the unexpected events. You need to start, and the mistakes will happen. The unexpected events will happen, and when it comes, you solve them. But if you don't start, and you if you start to think, oh, why not do this because that can happen, you will stay in your way forever and you don't move and your project will be still in your mind. So start as you are, start with you have, and when the problems arrive, you can solve them, but don't start to think in the problems, in the challenges before they arrive.
Yes, and as you said, do volunteering if you don't do it yet, because you learn that sometimes, to be honest, most of the times, you don't have the resource, you don't have the money, and you don't have enough people as you wanted to start a project. But you learn that you can still make this project happen without what you thought was necessary. So that's one important thing. Another important thing about doing some voluntary work before starting your project, maybe. But again, don't let this stop you from starting the project. If you have never volunteered before, it's possible to start a project. Possibly you will hit some walls during the way, but it's possible to make things happen. Okay, and we have designed our timesheet. We have designed the steps we're going to take, and it's time to design the team roles because we have designed how many people we want to have, we need to have, and it's important to distribute the tasks because again, one man or women cannot change the whole world. One man or women cannot make a project be successful. You need people to be responsible for different tasks. So no one will be responsible for overseeing all that is happening. It's impossible to oversee all that's happening. And just like all the other points, there is no standard structure. It can change. Oh, we have Yusuf. How about pandemic like COVID? I'm sure so many projects are brought to an abrupt halt. Yes, yes, and I know many and many of them. Unfortunately, some of them cannot proceed until we change the situation, until we can gather people alongside again. But many of them can also change. See, for example, what happened to gyms. Uh, Technically, if the gyms didn't change their way of work, they would die because people can't gather anymore, or at least can't gather as many people as used to go to the gym. Then gyms started to launch some virtual classes. Some personal trainers started to give some sessions from their own home with their cell phone. It's important for us, especially if we have a team, to have brainstorm sessions about what can be adjusted so we don't let the project die. Maybe we need to postpone the project, but we can keep them alive with some sparks of life, just like some social media posts or some short interviews, some short actions that we can advertise and be preparing, keeping your public awake about the project to come back to life when possible. So for the team roles, you have many different roles, but it's important to at least pinpoint the essential ones. And those are having someone responsible for media and marketing, even if you don't advertise, even if you don't create content. There's someone who must be the responsible one for being the contact point when someone wants to learn a little bit more about the project, someone wants to interview you, or want to receive a flyer, this is responsibility of the person from media and marketing. You need someone to be responsible for resource mobilization. You need someone to be responsible for the finance controls. And if possible, it shouldn't be the same person for those 2 points. Because one person is thinking about spending and the other one is thinking about how not to spend the money. You need someone who can be responsible for funding and partnerships. This one can be the same one from resource mobilizations. There is no problem at all to have one person responsible for two or more roles, but it's important to have the description of the roles. Someone responsible for volunteers mobilization maybe can be the same one from media and marketing. In fact, this person will be talking to media, will be talking to the world. Why not be the responsible for touching, getting in touch with volunteers? And you need someone to be doing the general management. That will be the contact point for all the other ones. So this person can have a macro view of what is going on. Usually, the general manager is the person who started the project, who gave life to the project, but it doesn't need to be so. Maybe you discover someone in your team that has really aptitude for managing things and can become the general manager. Okay. After that, we have done almost every step we need to start a project, and we need to think about how to launch it. So after so much work, it's finally time to give life to the project. Every step, all the planning done so far, that maybe you did that in one day, or maybe you took 6 months to design that, it had the sole objective to successfully launch the project and make it possible to achieve the target goal, to achieve the reason why of the project. And you can use many different strategies to launch and also to upgrade the impact without spending any money. Okay, some tasks that might help you in the launch is create and review a to-do list for the day of the launch or for the event for the launch. Define a date and time that can be easy to gather as many people as possible. So if you're doing a local project with your local community, think about a good day that you can have as many people as possible. Maybe some Wednesday by 3 o'clock in the afternoon isn't the best time. Or maybe it is for the kind of project you're going to do. So think about that. There's not a right date and time to launch a project. Make use of the social media to achieve the target audience. Today, almost everyone has a social media account, be it Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. TikTok is something that's coming to stay, and especially if you're focusing on younger people, younger folks, that is the social media to be in, to be creating content. Yes?
Guys, I share my secret. I create a TikTok account because I'm a climate activist, and I noticed that if I want to achieve my generation, I need to learn how to speak with people that are younger than me. And I did my TikTok, and if you want to to see my videos about climate crisis, please go to my TikTok account. That is Amandinha C. Costa. I will share here in the comments. But I just stopped Rodrigo to share this because I want to invite you to broke your limits and try new things. Sometimes it's really hard to get out of your comfort zone. But if you have some ideas on your mind, if you start to do your project, you need to connect with people. And the way that our generation, like people in our century, do to connect with people is the social media. And we need to learn how to speak with different publics. So I invite you to go to TikTok, to Instagram, to Twitter, and start to share your project in your social media.
Yes, talk about it. It's important to talk about your ideas. It's important to talk about your projects because that's the way you're getting people involved. That's the way you get the community engaged. Because people need to learn about what you intend to do. If possible, it's not mandatory, especially for local ones, but it's always desirable to have a nice logo for the project. And you don't need to be paying for a logo. There are many, many free websites that you can use to design your logo or to use a more general one. But if possible, this one for Project for All this all colorful one. I have been looking, for example, for some examples of logos for community engagement projects, logos for diversity projects. And I found one that was almost similar to this, but I didn't like the colors. So I went to Paint and started to design some hexagons with different colors and joined that. I did this logo in about 2 hours, and it works for me. It brings the message that I want to bring to the world, that it's colorful, but that it's linked, but that it's structured. So take some time to design a logo for a project. It can make some difference. And also, please do it as much as you can, because this is really, really important for people who give their time, who give their money to a project. Public appreciate them. When you launch a project, make the doable thanks to all the volunteers, to all the partners, and all the sponsors from your project. This can make a huge difference in how you're going to engage possible new partners, for example. If the organizations, if people see that you always thank the ones who are by your side, they are more possibly to be engaged into your new adventures. Okay? And again, your project was launched, but it doesn't stop that way, because you need to think even when your project is going to die. Remember? So some projects might be planned for one action only, but a successful long-term project needs to think ahead of the first activities. You don't need to be designing all the activities that you're going to take all year long, but you need to think that, okay, I'm going to need some activities all year long. How I'm going to be always improving the project, how I'm going to be always adjusting. So if the launch is the social birth of the project, is the time, the moment when the project comes alive to the whole public, the follow-up is the life history. It's what happens in the life of the project. Don't let it born dead, please. And usually the follow-up tasks compose a circular system. And it will be always retrofitting the project. I believe some new messages popped up. Do you want to take it, Amanda?
Yes, we have it from Clara. She said that she has. I'll put here on the. I have a small project in mind: beauty and online tool website for mapping natural hair salons in Brazil. The objective is to help wave curly and curly haired people to find a specialized professional in their region. Natural hair movement, yes, and just sharing the idea with you guys. Kara, I am a black girl who has curly hair, and I know how difficult it is to find good salons here in Brazil, in my region. So I love your idea. I just want to go to your website to visit and to find these salons. Thank you for sharing.
Yes. And we had already some suggestion from Yusuf. Uh,
Go ahead, go ahead.
Nice idea, Clara. Have you thought about using OpenStreetMap? They had a good API that can be deployed for your use case. I have some experience mapping on OpenStreetMap and can lend some hand. That's why you always. That's the reason why you can't be shy about your ideas. Because sometimes you have someone in the same session that can help you. And congratulations for sharing it, and thank you, Yusuf, for the point. Maybe you two can talk later on.
This
And
is
I'll
the
be
power of a network. This is the power of to share your ideas. You get connect with people.
yes. You know, when you always read on LinkedIn that you need to be building a network, and what you think is okay, I need to go to some events, I need to give cards, I need to be sending emails, but we need to see that we live in many different networks. We are currently inside many different networks, and this one is a small network. and there's always the opportunity to make best use of this network. Don't think of only the the common way to do that. And we are almost finishing, guys, but just to understand a little bit about how does it work, the circular fitting I have thought is, for example, you did the activity. Let's start with the red one. You review the results of the last activity. You collect feedbacks from participants and from stakeholders. Those stakeholders can be your sponsors, can be the volunteers from the project, they can be the partners. So it's everyone who is involved or affected by the project. Define some follow-up meetings with your team, because usually, especially if you have a recurrent kind of project, you need to design an agenda that you can have your team together weekly or every 2 weeks or monthly. So define the follow-up you need to do during those meetings. Review the resource available that you still have and what you need for the next actions. Maybe you already collected all the resources you need for your whole project, for the whole year. Maybe you just collected for this action and you need to be working to collect some more. Create a social media calendar plan. This is really, really, really important. Just as Clara just shared her idea, it's important to learn, okay, we are going to do an activity on October 15th. When do we need to start talking about that? When do we need to start sharing this on social media so people will be touched about it, will learn about that? Contact new partners and sponsors. Why do that before having the social media calendar plan? Because you will have consistency in your communication and you can show your new partners and sponsors that you are working, that you have a plan. And believe me, most of projects that go looking for money don't have a well-structured plan. That can be the difference for you to getting new companies or new sponsors engaged. Recruiting more project members. If everything goes well, your project goes big, it goes from your city to your state, to your country, to your continent, you'll be needing to build more team. So you recruit more team members, more participants, you do a new project, you review the results, and this go on and on and on. And I have left some bonus content for you to start designing your idea. So basically, those are two templates. One is the planner template, where you can write your project name, what is the goal, what you aim to achieve, what are the objectives. So list some smaller and secondary objectives that you want to achieve. You will always have your major goal, and you can have some smaller objectives. So what is your major goal? Is helping young people how to code. What are your objectives? I want to train 20 young people in 2020. I want to train 100 young people in 2021. I want to achieve XYZ communities, or I want to be present in 2 countries. Write down what are the goals you are going step by step to achieve your major goal and where you're going to start. If it will be local, national, global, online. Then you start to map your resources. Okay, and I had just made some small notes like volunteers, who are them, who join the project without any cost, the partners, people, organizations that can provide any kind of support. And you start listing, making a brainstorm of all the people you need to achieve. For the volunteers, how many volunteers do you need? For the collaborators, what are their working positions? For the customer public, who can be the people you want to impact? It can be one profile, it can be 10, it's up to you. The idea is to use this tool to get everything out of your mind and start to put this on order. Think about the money. Public support, how you're going to get money from public. We'll open a crowdfunding page. We'll make raffles. to do corporate support, you are looking for donations. Where? For government, you are applying for grants. You are looking for some loans. It's one possibility also. So I hope this one can help you to start mapping how to bring your project to life. And the other one is the actions template. You have thought about the people, you have thought about the resource, the equipment, the tools, and it's time now to think about your actions. So what is the timeline for your project? So when you're going to take every step to get to reach the milestones we have designed? What are the team roles inside your project? What are you going to do before the launch of the project? And what will be the next steps? It's quite small, but print 10 if you want to. And you just need to click on the links and you'll be able to see those templates. Important information, it's natural that the planning will start small and simple and will evolve with the time. It will evolve as you achieve some milestones and you have new team members that can identify and point new opportunities and ideas. So don't worry to design a super detailed plan at this moment. Start designing small and it will get bigger when it needs to get bigger. Don't use too many time using those two tools. Okay. Yes, you can print 10 of them, but the idea is that maybe one page can help you design what is needed to start the project. Okay. You need an initial schedule and action plan, and it will grow stronger. And now your project is alive. And this is it, guys. I leave you have in the comment section, you'll have the link that is upglive.org.upgsl projects for all's guide. Just click on that and you'll be having access to this content. And please share with me your ideas. If you have any questions and suggestions, you can always email me. And this is it. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you so much. It was an awesome presentation. Thank you for everyone who stay with us. And I just want to uh, give another invitation. If you watch this presentation, you are, oh my God, I want to do my project. I want to do something, but you don't know how to start. I want to share with you the Day of Climate Professional. It's an initiative from YCL to mobilize 20,000 people in our world to take actions against climate crisis. I invite you to take a look in our website to see more about the Day of Climate Professional and to talk about everyone about this day. Talk to your friends, to your mother, to your family, to your people in your church. We need everybody fighting against climate crisis. So if you have ideas and if you want to start to do a project, you can use the Day of Climate Profession to start. Let me see the comments. If I have, we have a lot of grateful. Like Clara said, great idea. Thank you, Samia. Thank you so much. Clara, oh, that's so helpful. Thanks for sharing the templates with us, Rodrigo. Great content and presentation. Thanks. Thiago, clap. Yusuf, thank you so much. And Samia Gomes, we are creating an NGO in Brazilian, and your types were really helpful.
Oh, that's really, really great to hear, Senia. I hope we can get in touch when you need anything to share or when you're ready to share with the world. It will be a pleasure to be following you. And Amanda,
Rodrigo,
thank you
yes.
again for the invitation. That was an amazing talk. This was my first session for this project in English. So it's registered for life. Sorry for all the misspellings, guys, but it's hard to be a non-native English speaker. But I hope the content was helpful to you. And for you in Brazil, you can always have the content in Portuguese if you want to, so you can print it and you can share with your communities. just email me and it will be a pleasure to send it to you.
Perfect. Guys, if you have any doubts, please let us know. You can email us and please wait until next month to our next YCL talk. Thank you so much, Rodrigo. It was a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you. Bye bye, guys. All the best for you.